So we personally changed the Whatcom County code.
Oh,
so
do tell.
It was not easy. But the county council, when we went to the county council for final approval, our proposal was so good and made so much sense that we got a unanimous vote from the county council. Our attorney cried. Like, that never happens.
Wow. Charmae, welcome to the studio. I have been talking with Tiffany about this for a long time and didn't realize that you knew each other. And I've been a consumer of your business.
Yeah.
I bring my dog Walt to Rover. It used to be 3 days a week. Now it's 2 days a week.
Yeah.
But we have been coming there for the entire time he's been alive and realized how important it was. We're like, oh, we got a dog. This is going to be great. And then we're like, we have jobs.
Yeah.
Where does he go? He can't just sit at home all day.
Yes.
He's a dog and he's a springer, so he's
busy.
10,000 miles of hiking every day. So you guys had come super highly recommended to us, and it's been awesome. It's just been plug and play since then, and so really appreciate what you do.
Yes.
And always have been, my business mind has been incredibly fascinated by how it started.
Yeah.
And how the economics of it and how it stays alive, and why there isn't more competition. Is it because you're just dominating? Is it just because, like, tell me this, just tell us the story. How did this idea start?
So you direct me if I get off on rabbit trails. So we were living in Eastern Washington. We had a passel of little kids, right? And we had a dog, but my family all lived here, our families. So now we have to leave this dog. What are we going to do? We don't want to burden someone with our dog for 7 days while we're on a vacation. So we start looking into kennels in Tri-Cities area, and we find this beautiful kennel out in the country just out past us. And I'm like, so we go there to drop off our dog. I've made all the arrangements and stuff. It's our little bulldog. And I am just gobsmacked. Like, oh my gosh, look at this. It's this beautiful setting. It's a surgeon who was retired. He had built this beautiful building. The floors are heated, like everything's perfect. And I'm like, we need to do this. This is like a modern day dairy farm. And Ken grew up on a dairy farm, and we grew up around dairy farms. And this is like a job for everybody, something we can do at home. I'm a stay-at-home mom with 7 kids that I'm homeschooling. Like, this is perfect. So we started looking then for an old farmhouse. We thought, oh, we'll have an old farm, like an abandoned farm kind of thing, right? And so we just kept looking in Eastern Washington, and then we ended up moving over here, and we started looking here. Like, there's all kinds of farms with all these buildings, right? But my husband does excavating. He doesn't do electrical and all that stuff. So as we looked at different places and different properties, we would eliminate them because they were so much work. Like, we have to plug every hole in that barn. We have to insulate that whole barn. We have to make kennels in there. Like, it didn't.
The money counter's just gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wing, wing, wing. And so we had these friends who had a house for sale on the Hannigan, and they wanted us to come and look at it. And I didn't realize which house it was. And I totally knew it once we got there. And I was like, we cannot afford this. Why are we even here? What are we doing, husband? And so we looked at the house, beautiful, nice house, had this huge shop. And then, I don't know, 6 months later or something like that, I was like, we need to buy that place. It already has an office in the shop.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect. We don't have to do any electrical, nothing. It's all set up, and it has a house big enough for all of us. And so that kind of started it rolling. So I'm the people person. Sydney.
I can't tell.
Yeah.
It's not evident,
I love people. Wow,
this is a really awkward conversation so far. Oh my gosh.
And Sydney loves the dogs. So Sydney she wants to be in the back. I wanted to be in front. And I mean, we swapped back and forth, but she knew the dog. She learned the dog business. So here's how we let them out. Here's how much time they need out, all that, worrying about the welfare of the dogs. And I'm in the front starting out with a cell phone, all the kids in the car, all the calls are coming to my phone. I'm in the grocery store, like, hello, Rover, stay over.
Yeah.
Sure, I can get that, like
on a napkin.
Yes, wherever I was.
On your hand or whatever. Yeah.
And then it grew really fast. And then people would see me somewhere and they're like, who's taking care of my dog? And it was just me. I was the face of the business for a long time. And when you're living on the property, it's like a farm. Like every time a customer came in, I'm running down to the kennel to take care of the customer.
It's like a dog wellness farm.
Oh yeah. And it's everything dog, it's their food, it's their medications, it's their teeth brushing, we've been asked to do the most ridiculous things.
Can you share like one of your favorites?
Gosh, I can't even think of one right now.
We can circle back on that.
Okay. If I think of it, I'll
just, if you're in the middle of the story, we can cut back. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
I've got stories. Yeah. So we also had all these kids. So our first year in business, we got to the end, our accountant looks at our books and they're like, how can you have no payroll? And I'm like, we got kids.
Yeah.
Like, we're all working. And she's like, you can't do that. And I'm like, it's a farm. It's like a farm. Like everybody works. We don't like give them paychecks. This is how our family makes our money. But Ken was still excavating. So we could live off of that. And as we were building our business. So though it was a whole family affair, we sat at the kitchen table with a PR lady and chose our name. And
how'd you come on the name?
We had a whole list and we just kind of went through them all. And the interesting thing was we went to get roverstayover.com and rover.com had just gotten it. So rover.com is Microsoft people with $12 million they invested or something. And here's us, like we have no money.
Yeah.
We have all these little kids. We're just have this. It wasn't, I don't know that it was a dream. It was a goal. And I'm not one that like writes down and I write things down and check them off. I love that. But this was, like we couldn't deny it. Like we had to do it. It was going. Well, it was just so needed. We wanted to do it better. Because the old kenneling was, they just stayed. We left our little dog at that beautiful kennel and they put her in a kennel and it was indoor, outdoor, and it was very comfortable, I'm sure, but she never got held. She never got walked. She never hardly had human interaction the whole time. And I couldn't stand it. Like we loved our dog and people love their dogs and they need human interaction all the time and dog friends. And, it's different. It used to be like you left your dog and you just ripped a bag of dog food open and set it in the garage. And your dog's fine. Yeah. Like neighbor comes once a day and lets him out in the yard or something like that. But now everybody's sleeping with their dogs. The dogs are in the house. It's a whole different world. And when they drop off their dog to be cared for by us, we want to care for that dog. Like we want to look Walter in the face and say, dude, did you have a good day? Like my girls know who his friends are, what his preferences are. I don't even know who his friends.
I don't even know who his friends are.
Yeah. They would know that.
I think everybody is his friend.
Probably everybody is his friend.
Yeah.
And they care about the individual dogs. So we hire people who love dogs. And it's super interesting because when you're, dog people, right? Like, like they're a dog person. And because they talk to your dog before they talk to you most of the time. And we know our customers by their dogs.
Yeah.
Like you bring Walter in and I'd be like, oh yeah, I know him, but I know your dog.
I know Walter, but I know Walter.
Yeah. But we spend a lot of time with him. So when they're boarding, we're their mom, and we clean their kennels, get clean. This is just kind of funny information, but, we're there at 5:45 in the morning and all the dogs go out. Everybody's got to go potty, right? Everybody's like, woo, we gotta go,
Yep.
So they're all out, mostly one at a time. And we have somebody out by the field gates and somebody letting out. And it's just
like
wild.
A herd of cattle.
Yeah. It's so fun. And then it's feeding round. So we set up the night before. We have carts that have everybody brings their own food because we don't want to upset tummies.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't want to change their food. We want it as homey as possible. We let people take blankets, but that kind of bites us sometimes because then we lose them in the laundry, or a neighbor pulls it through a fence and somebody's like, that was my grandma's quilt she made me from 1949. And we're like,
looked like a quilt to me. Yeah. Sorry,
you're not getting that back. So we do laundry, dishes. So here's the funny part for me is I'm in the house taking care of 7 kids, doing laundry, dishes.
Can we just touch on that for a minute?
Yes.
You're running a huge business.
Yeah, it's a busy business.
Your husband's working full time, especially when you first started, and you have a whole group of kids. What's the term? Is it a flock of kids? Is it a pack of kids? What's the?
It's a crew.
It's a crew.
It's like a crew, and so 5 girls and 2 boys.
Okay.
So the 2 older girls they were already grown and flown by the time we were at Rover. So, we had the younger 5, which, they all did everything. They did front desk.
Nice.
They did the phone rang in the kennel and in the house. So wherever I was, I could answer the phone because I was really front desk. They were the pooper scoopers when they were little. They were the dishwasher unloaders. They were there's so much to do. And there's a standard of cleanliness and there's yard work. It's the whole package. When you pull in the yard, you want to see a nice yard and you want to know, like, okay, I'm confident because this place is clean.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's clean out here, it's probably clean in there. And it is. And so it was a lot with 7 kids, raising 7 kids. And Ken has his own excavating company now. So he does that. He's like, can you help me a little bit? Nope,
sorry, man.
Pretty much maxed out, dude. I can only do so much. But getting, my kids one year went to school at a little Christian school that had a bus. And I was like, this is perfect. They can get delivered right to the house. Well, no, they were delivered to High Notes Corner. And then I had to be there to meet the bus.
Just nonstop logistics.
But one time my PR lady had to pick them up. And one time my trainer had to pick them up because I'm with a customer. And they would get to school late because I'm with a customer. Like somebody just dropped off and, sorry, the kids are late again, but I had a customer. And so it was a lot making it all work. But people are super understanding and we have great customers, and we didn't have employees for a long time. And then it was like, I got to have a break. And so then you have to replicate yourself in the kennel. Like, this is how we clean. So in the morning after we do first out, then we do meals, then we do medications, and you have to have a checklist. You have to have you have
to be on it.
Yeah, you have to be on it. And then we go through and do a 5-point wellness check. Are the eyes bright? Did they go out? Did they get up and run outside? Just making sure, checking the paws. Then everybody has to go out again. And during that out, every kennel, the bed gets sanitized, the wall, we have see-through, we have, our kennels, they're able to see out because dogs are social.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to be stuck in a three-sided.
Yeah.
So they can see out, they can see all their friends, and they can see the girls. So, and we can see them. And so it's not like dark, back room kind of thing. It's like bright and open, and you can like, who's barking? Oh, buddy, you need to go out. Like, out you go. So we have 4 quadrants. One is the office, and then one is daycare,
mm-hmm.
and one is, and then the back 2 are boarding. And so we are interacting with those dogs all day long. So after they're clean, that's their long out, and then back they come in, and then all the daycare dogs, premium dogs go out. They've had their temperament test. And so they go out with the groups, the daycare groups out in the yards. And we have little shelters out there and little heaters, and our girls stand out there, rain, shine.
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. They are troopers, but they love the dogs. They're sopping wet because the dogs are jumping on them, but the dogs have toys out there, and they're like those what do you call those? Reel things, like they're up on those, and they're in the swimming pools in the summer, and they're just chasing and having a good old time. Like, so funny, so fun to watch. And we try to keep our groups under 15 dogs per person.
So they don't take over and throw a mutiny on you?
Yes.
Yeah.
We do not want that. And
I've seen it at the dog park a few times. I'm like, that's one dog away from like them driving us to the sea or whatever they do.
We get really nervous about dog parks because you don't have temperament tests, and we just always tell people, like, be very cautious at a dog park because you don't know what you're getting. We know what we're getting. And we have in our notes, like, Walter likes Fred, and like he has his little list of friends, or he has,
and he got a scorecard too when he was a puppy.
Yes.
And he got in trouble for humping.
Oh yeah.
Regularly. We got a scorecard back, and it was like, he did great. He opened the gate and then humped 3 dogs. And I was like, wow, not my kid.
People love report cards.
Yeah, that was hilarious. By the way,
I bet you were dying laughing.
Yeah.
And when I read the report cards, I think they're so cute. I can hardly take it. And
and just for the record, they didn't say he was humping. It was he was getting very friendly with other dogs, and I was like, I know what that means. He's already friendly, so it's more friendly than he already is. Probably establishing dominance and being a little turd. He's a good turd.
And dogs act differently at the kennel than they do. Some people are like, I don't know that he'll be able to play with other dogs, or he's not very good with people. But when they're not home protecting you at your home, this is my turf and stuff, a lot of times they're a completely different dog.
Yeah.
Well,
he knows I'm not watching there. You're watching. You're probably a better person. But he knows that, like, we have that relationship, which is different than his relationship with my wife, which is, he goes to her for almost everything, but he knows that play, and he knows that, like, when it comes to, hey, not cool, boundary. Yeah. This is the order of the house.
You're the guy.
And so it's tough sometimes for my wife to watch that, but also it's the dynamic that I know he doesn't have when he has structure there. Yes. But I know that he's like, Dad's not here. Oh, what am I?
I'm having a good
Which
time.
Pile of crap am I going to eat today? And you're like, oh, come on,
You do
man.
have dogs that do that.
He did actually do that one day.
Yeah.
I got the feedback on that one day. I'm like, sorry, guys. And he opened the gate and he got into the poop. Sweet, dude. Thank you. Then he comes up and he's like, hey, Dad. I'm like, no, not today.
Get out of my face.
Boundaries,
buddy.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a trainer. We call ourselves Grandma's house, because when the dogs come to us, we're not there to correct a behavior. I mean, if it's something easy we can fix, we do. But they're there to have a good time. Like, we're not going to get after your dog. We're not Mom and Dad. We're Grandma's house. So we just want you to be comfortable and happy and well taken care of while you're here. We're not going to be like ever mean or, I mean, you know what you get.
I know
the
what
difference.
Grandma's house is like.
It's Grandma's house.
Yeah.
We just want you to be happy and content for a few days while your parents are gone.
Yeah.
And we don't want to stress you out. And so if that means a few extra outs or some treats or, whatever we can do. And the girls are really good at watching that too. Like, oh, this little dog looks like she's kind of depressed or whatever. And pretty soon I'm like, you've been carrying that dog around for a while. And they're like, yeah, she just looked like she wasn't happy, So I love that because that's the individual care. And people call, we tell them all the time, just call us. You're in Hawaii laying on the beach and you're like, oh, I wonder how my dog is, like I miss him. Like, call us. We're gonna say
he's pulling the plow in the field right now. We're putting him to work.
He needs to
got
work.
into it. Yeah.
So a 5-minute phone call from Europe. We get calls from all over Europe, all over, right? Or emails like, how's my dog doing? Because they're part of your family and you just had to leave them at a kennel and you've never had to do that before. And we 5-second, hey, we need a wellness check on Walter.
Yeah.
Okay. He ate all his breakfast. He's outside with his friends right now. It's not every day isn't all roses. There are some rough days. We get kennel cough going through.
And it just kind of just flies through.
So kennel cough does not start at our kennel because we don't take dogs that are sick. But somebody comes in with kennel cough, canine cough, and spreads it. It's through the air and it spreads like, 300 yards or some crazy thing.
That's pretty crazy.
So we let the people choose if they want to do the vaccination, but the kennel cough vaccination doesn't work. It's like a kid going to daycare and getting a cold.
Yeah.
And
I know what that's like now.
Yeah. Now you do.
We've just been like some form of like sniffs or coughs or whatever for
it just happens.
Eternity.
And it's not serious unless they're very young dogs or very old dogs.
Right.
So it used to be like people hid the fact that, oh yeah, we're having canine cough go through. We don't hide it. Yeah. First sign of it, we put signs up in the office. Your dog may get kennel cough. It's going around. We put it out on our social media. We do everything we can to warn you because it sounds like they have a hairball.
Yeah.
So when you hear that, and then they'll sort of either throw up or something, or foamy stuff comes out, and you're like, oh my gosh, she swallowed a bone. We got to go to the vet. And we're like, no, call us, because if it's kennel cough, the vet really can't do a whole lot for you.
Yep.
Unless it's just cold. Like, just let it run its course. They can't come in for 14 days from the first symptoms, because we don't want them to spread it, but it's nothing serious. It sounds scary. It's not pretty really normal. Scary. Yeah. It's just a kid with a cough, and it happens. We just don't want to spread it.
Makes sense.
So we're very open about it, but we're the new kind of kenneling. We feel like the dogs used to, like I was saying, my little bulldog is stuck in a kennel, gets out once or twice a day maybe, but it's an indoor-outdoor kennel, but not out into a field. And we're like, holy cow, after 3, 4, 5 days of that, those poor dogs, even one day, can you imagine Walter just tied up in a kennel? Like,
I don't think he'd like it.
No.
Yeah. But I mean.
Yeah. So we let him run, because when we go out at night, Sydney will sometimes video and everybody's asleep on their beds. Like, it's perfectly quiet. And we're like, hey, everybody, because they're worn out. They've had a great day. They've had their food and their medications. And we turn the light off, and we have cameras so we can watch if there's a dog that we're concerned about or something. But, I lived in the house at Rover Stayover for 10 years. So I go from the chaos of 7 children to the chaos of starting a kennel. And I'm doing laundry and dishes, and then I go out to the kennel and do laundry and dishes, and I'm constantly on the phone. People are like, I never saw anybody on the phone. Well, if my kids are calling me and my customers are calling me, my day's there's 8 hours.
There, it's gone.
Right there. Because you're coaching your kids as they get older, right? My kids were, I think my youngest Ransom was 5 or 7 or so when we started the kennel, and I was homeschooling, and there's a customer. I'd go running down to the kennel, and then I'd be like, has anybody seen Ransom? Anybody know where Ransom went? long gone, like out in the cornfield, dinking around. And I'm like, okay, I can't do that. I'm not a great homeschool teacher. I just want to have fun most of the time, and I'm not serious enough about it. But my kids are well educated. They all graduated high school. We're the working class. Yeah. I say it worked. It's totally fine. But I ended up sending them to school. Ransom started in 5th grade. And so that freed me up quite a bit, but there's still, I still got 4 or 5 kids in the house.
Yep. One at a time. Yeah.
One at a time. And the kids are great, like great kids, good work, hard workers. Yeah, most of them were burned out on that because it's like a farmer. You know, how many farmers' kids want to be farmers because they've lived it.
Yeah.
And there's never
probably 0%.
But there are the kids, you know, like our neighbors, they have a couple kids they love the farm life and it's a great life. But there are kids like, I'm never doing that. And some of my kids who have worked so hard in the kennel and went out in every kind of weather, you know, we have to dig ourselves out. Like if we get a snowstorm, we're out there before all the employees come because you don't want it trounced on and you can't open doors and everything's frozen. And we get out there early morning. I got up at 5 a.m. for years, but I had never really slept before that because I had 7 kids. So right? It was
just an easy transition.
It was super, didn't even matter, but it really was a great fit for my personality because I'm a homebody. I don't really like to leave the house that much. Like I love people, but now people came to me.
Yeah.
So I met this whole the
group of people
that I would have never,
and dog people
and their dog people. And they're excited because they're going on vacation and they bring us home chocolates from.
I'm not as excited because I have to go. Well, I work in a great place with great people, but when you're like, hey, I'm dropping the dog off to go to work, you're like, yay, work. I want to be on vacation.
You know, we need to revisit that because you mentioned something that is super important and that people don't think about when they get a dog. That dog needs a lot of exercise. This is a 15-20 year commitment.
Yes.
We just lost our Chow Chow, who was 15, Edgar. And you need to think through that before you get a dog, and you need to get the right application. You know, we see these older people get a lab. Labs don't settle down for years.
Man.
Yeah. But
they asked us so many questions. They asked us so many questions.
The breeder asked us. That's so good.
This is, and I was like, man, I didn't realize I was going to get grilled serious. Like I was going to,
adopting a child.
Hair Sam. And they're like, how much do you exercise? How much are you outdoors? And I'm like, well, we hike once a week. We're really active. We run, we bike. And they're like, how many times a day do you bike? And I'm like, what? And then I got Walt and I was like, oh my God. Okay, cool. We'd go mountain bike and then we'd take him to Rover and then he'd go swim in the lake and then he'd drop a toy in front of me. I'm like, dude, we're done.
Yeah.
I'm done. You're done. You're going to sleep. But
so you get the application because a little old lady should probably get a low maintenance, sweet little dog that she can take in the car with her and stuff, not a lab. Like they don't have the energy for it. So many of these dogs need daycare. Daycare is a huge asset for people, which you have witnessed. So even if you can't do 5 days a week and you're working 5 days a week, we're open for daycare 7 days a week because now we have skiers who want to go on Saturdays and Sundays up skiing and they need daycare on those days. So the brilliance of daycare is that you can bring them one day. They're sleeping in the back seat on their way out of the driveway. Like the people are like sending pictures like, look, and their dog is like, in the back
Walt
seat.
Puts his face on the door handle. So I've got my daughter in the left back seat, and then I've got in her baby car seat, and then I've got Walter who gets excited to see her, and then he goes, and he's just done draped on the window.
Yeah,
I'm like, all right,
so sweet.
See you later, man.
So the next day, they're usually still worn out. Most dogs are so worn out from that first day. And we'll get phone calls like, did you guys drug my dog?
Yeah.
And we're like, no, he played hard. Like he's not even waking up for dinner. And we're like, it's okay. He'll eat his breakfast. Just, he's worn out. And we've worked hard on figuring out the best play surface. Eventually we'll probably do fake grass, which is amazing, turf, but it's also amazingly expensive.
Yep.
So we have pea gravel, which we can go through at night and spray and sanitize outside. We put grass in for years. We spent a 4th of July. Like it was hotter than heck here. And when we did a trailer of sod in the new backfields, put all new fields in, and we worked all day. I was so worn out because you're on your knees too, crawling and pulling seams rolling together and stuff. And all the kids and our nephew, and it was just littered with Gatorade and water bottles. And we got done. It was beautiful. And the dogs just wreck it.
Day one. Gone.
And we let it, like, we tried to leave it and let it root in and stuff. But every time we've done it, it's just totally worthless. So, so we bring in the pea gravel, and it also is kind of like sand, right? So it makes the dogs are working harder while they're working or while they're playing. And, but it's cleaner, it's better. And it's the base layer. Once we do put the turf on, we have lots of ideas yet that we want to do. We're always like, we go to conferences and stuff, and we learn more about cleaning systems inside that are easier. And, we mop, you have to think of everything like a child. You don't want your dogs walking on bleach.
Right.
You like all these things. So all our cleaners are, hydrogen peroxide and stuff that if they licked it or somebody sprayed it and it oversprayed into a
it's not the end of the
bottle,
fine.
Like doesn't even hurt the dog. Like all those kind of things you work your way through as you're learning and growing.
Can we jump into that for a second? Because one thing that I'm picking up on is you've built a really, really unique business and really, really just strong business. It's doing, one of the things that I think about when it comes to entrepreneurship, being a business owner, I call it wantrpreneurship because everyone talks about it, but ultimately it really is, it's a dream, and there's so many different ways of approaching it.
Yep.
And some people, they're like, I went to college, I got MBA, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I had a mentor, I had this, but most people, including myself, kind of bootstrapped it, right? And you figure it out. Can talk to me a little bit more about street smarts versus, book smarts, or how did you build this business? What was your background, or was it just, this is our goal, this is our thing we're going to do as a family, we're going to figure it out? Tell me more about that.
So it was
mindset.
Kind of a combination. Yeah. So Ken and I have never gone to college. We've taken specific classes when we needed to.
I dropped out, by the way.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
And we have not encouraged our kids to go to college. We're like, we can't pay for it. Like we can't pay for the 4 years of college for 7 children, right?
That's a big bill.
That's a big bill. So, and most of our girls wanted to be mommies, and they had jobs and then have become parents, which is what they really wanted to be. And our boys are still kind of figuring it out, but they're all hard workers. And our thing always is like, if you're a hard worker, anybody will take you, because there's not a lot of hard workers in the world. So as long as you prove that you can get up in the morning, and this, so a couple things, the starting of the business. So we had taken over an excavating business in Eastern Washington and figured it out. Like I was the dispatcher. I had to be up and shower before 6 o'clock when the phone started ringing, and the kids were getting up. I only had 3 at that time, and
just three.
That's
easy. That sounds, what do we say? It was 1 kid equals 1 kid, 2 kid equals 5 kids, and then 3 plus kids is like 10,000 kids, a donkey and a hurricane. So
and
lots of respect for that. I'm like, oh my God, 1 kid, and then they're like, then So
and they come one at a time. So you get
good thing. Well, it's not always.
Yeah, not always. But it
luckily
does.
for you,
you get acclimated a little bit, and then I would have taken twins. I mean, we never thought we'd have 7 kids. We really thought 4 was our max, and then we almost doubled it. And somebody said, "Oh, you 4 each?"
Did you get the joke like you're starting a baseball team?
All the time.
Yeah.
And every old man would say to me, I'm walking pregnant in the grocery store with 4 or 5 little kids behind me, quacking like a duck, because that's how you feel. And somebody say, what causes that? And I'd say, yep. And I'm going to get me an ugly husband next time.
Yeah. There you go. Nice.
It sort of takes the awkwardness out of it. Yeah. And my shy husband is like, rat, I'm
going to go to the 5. Do we need milk? I'm going to get milk right now. I'm leaving.
We have great stories. So he's been very patient with this whole thing. He honestly didn't know what he was getting when he married me. Like, we had dated almost 2 years, but he's quiet, the solid kind of guy. And I'm like, whoa, let's do this. And he's like, Charmae, we don't have money. We don't know what we're doing. But I'm kind of a researcher. So I started looking into it. I'm like, this is how we can do it. These are the size of the kennels we need. This is how other people do it. I plugged into some stuff so I could figure it out before we started, because it's a big risk. The part I didn't get right was the permitting. And that has been the hardest part. And that is why people don't do it.
Talk to me about that. When you say permitting, it's obviously taking a residential property and then converting it or getting a conditional use for a commercial business.
So we personally changed the Whatcom County code.
Oh,
so
do tell.
Yeah,
very interesting.
That was very, very interesting and very hard. And we had to take it to the hearing examiner, we didn't get a lot of cooperation from the planning department when we started this, or a lot of understanding. I didn't speak legalese of what it was. I would go into the planning department and ask questions, and I would never get an email back. Can you write that down for me so I can remember? Nobody ever did. So there was a lot of miscommunications and stuff. So anyway, we end up in the ag zone is where we started our kennel. Dogs were not allowed in the ag zone. That made no sense because they're animals. So it's small animal husbandry.
Right.
In the ag zone. Animals should be with animals, and they're noisy.
Right.
But they were only allowed in the rural zone.
Interesting.
In houses. So who is going to agree in a neighborhood like, yeah, let's put a dog kennel in our neighborhood? Nobody wants that.
Turn it down. It's 10 o'clock at night. Dogs.
Yeah. And so we changed, and it was not easy, but the county council, when we went to the county council for final approval, our proposal was so good and made so much sense that we got a unanimous vote from the county council. Our attorney cried. Like, that never happens.
Wow.
But it makes sense.
I didn't know attorneys do cry.
Yeah.
Just not.
She's lovely.
At the office, they cry like everybody else. We go home, we go, oh.
Yeah. And it was such a surprise that it went that way, because it had been such a hard battle to get all the permitting in place and everything else. So the county code now is on 5 acres or less. You can have a commercial dog kennel, because anything over 4 dogs is a commercial kennel. And you have to tell your neighbors, like, I'm going to apply for a commercial kennel, and everybody comes out of the woodwork and hates you because they don't want a dog kennel anywhere near them. We happen to, by God's grace, find this piece of property on the Hannigan that has 500 acres around it with no houses.
That's helpful.
But across the Hannigan from us is a rural zone.
Right.
But we were in the ag zone, but we weren't allowed in the ag zone. So we kind of went backwards at it when we figured out what we had done wrong.
This is after you purchased it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we rented it for 3 years before we bought it because we didn't have any money. We had all these little kids. Yeah. And we wanted to make sure that everything was good. And we went through a really rough patch, but our customers were so great. And we made it through the rough patch. We had to do everything. We had to stripe our parking lot. It was a CUP. We had to put in bioretention ponds, noise attenuation. Like they took us.
The ringer.
Oh my gosh. What was through the ringer?
I'm really curious because there was this
7 years it took us to get permitted. 7 years.
Okay.
So just so you know that.
7 years. And in that process, there was this gap between larger animals and dogs. And what was the argument or the presentation that landed? Tell me more about what was the reasoning that you gave that they all said, oh,
the main reason is because nobody wants them in neighborhoods. And we have, is that what you meant?
Yes, exactly.
And because we have all these farms that are turning from dairy farms into berry farms. They don't need those buildings in that house.
Small dairy, large dairy does the majority, it puts a lot of the small dairy out of business.
So the little guys,
but berry still does well.
But berries, they're usually bought by berry farmers.
Interesting. Okay.
And now and then they'll break off the house and barns with 5 acres.
Right.
And then that gives people a chance to get, to have another business there, a viable business on their farm. They can raise heifers or, there's 100 different things, but
not dog. It wasn't dog, but dogs were not in there. It wasn't
dogs. Yeah. And it is still, there's another kennel that started in Whatcom County and they had their house, they had to build a house. They had a piece of property. They had their house built, permitted, everything else. And they still hadn't done one thing on the kennel. It took 4 years just to permit a kennel. That is what keeps other people from doing it because it's so hard and it's so intense and it takes so much money. We couldn't have done it if we didn't have the kennel to help finance
producing, doing its job. Yeah.
The attorney fees were outrageous. And then if you do it, so there are at the time we started Rover, there were about 14 pretty good sized kennels in the county. Only one was permitted. Only one. The county knew about all of them, but you know what? Their neighbors aren't complaining. They're making a living for their family. They're doing a good job taking care of the dogs. Just let them do their thing.
Right.
We didn't even care. We're just going to do us. We're just going to take care of us and our permitting problems and make it through. And we did. And so most kennels are completely unpermitted. And the only reason they go after them, the only reason they go after them is if there's complaints. So we weren't going to be complaining. We felt like people who had a passion for that don't always have the finances and the time to get the permitting.
Or the grit.
Grit's
a big one.
It was eating an elephant. And thank goodness we had some really good people that helped us. I mean, you have to have a fire truck turnaround. You have to have, there's so many rules.
That wasn't just for my truck?
No.
Darn it. I thought it was the F-150.
But it is a big, and the garbage man.
Sure. Yeah, the garbage man.
But it's a commercial kennel. So it's a whole, if you're under 4 dogs, you're fine. But sometimes people have 4 dogs of their own,
Right.
But there are little kennels all scattered throughout the county, but and there are other kennels that are bigger they do a good job. Of course we feel like we're the best because we've got our heart and soul invested in taking good care of your dog and taking good care of, and then you get, it just takes one bad review or one disgruntled employee.
Tell me about that. Tell me about.
Oh my goodness, the employee thing is huge, right?
Employee thing, but also so much of, I mean, sometimes, you know, you try to keep the service as consistent as possible, and you have all these checklists and systems, and sometimes things just don't line up and mistakes are made. That happens with every business.
Yeah.
And if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're not a business owner, you need to understand that everybody's human and that happens.
Yes.
But when that happens, like someone has a lot of the times it's a perception of a misperception, misconception of the service, or they weren't clear on what, didn't read the services or what, like whatever it is. Tell me about those bad reviews. Tell me about the good reviews. Tell me, like, how does that affect you as a business owner, or the feedback from employees?
It really is so hurtful if somebody posts a bad thing on, you know, whatever forum there is. And we get them. We try to avoid that. We have a service that texts our people like 4 hours after they check out, like, was everything okay? How was your, you know, would you give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down? And if we get a thumbs down, we call that person like, hey, what was it? You know, well, I just thought my dog lost a bunch of weight while he was there. Well, what does he normally do at your house during the day? Like, well, he goes out 3 times. Well, he was with a group of dogs for 7 days while you were gone playing. Like, a lot of things we get is like their paws are sore because they're playing. Like we
just put ointment on Walt's. If he's playing hard, it's like, okay, cool.
We have this, special stuff we put on, and we do that. We try to do that to all the new dogs because we know they don't normally play on pea gravel. So their feet are going to be, and it's wet and their feet are pliable and they're, you know, running and now they've got sore paws. And so we try to always monitor that situation, for daycare dogs, especially because they're putting the most time out in the fields, but all of the dogs, because we don't want to send them home with sore paws and we want them playing the next day. So, okay, you're going to have to go up because you've been out here for 2 hours running like a crazy nut, and you're going to have sore paws. So then, you know, put the stuff back on, put them up in there. They have, most of the kennels are like either 4 feet wide or 5 feet wide, and they're 5 feet square or they're 7 feet long.
Pretty good size.
And they have a nice, everybody has a Karunda bed, which gets them up off the floor because they're cement floors, which is, you know, they're pooping and peeing sometimes. So you have to have floors you can clean. But the Karunda beds are like a hammock. So, and we put blankets on them in the wintertime, so they're warm. We have, all the rooms are heated. It's not luxurious as in we would think like luxurious, but for a dog, we say, hey, they're at camp. They got a warm bed. They get meals if they have lunch. You know, a lot of dogs come with lunch too. So we're feeding 3 meals a day. They're out all day long. Like, they're having a good time.
Well, I know where I'm coming if I'm in the figurative doghouse. If M gets mad at me, I'm not going downstairs to our other bedroom. I am coming straight to Rover. I know where to say, where does Walt sleep? I'm sure it's fine. We all cuddle together anyways.
It might be a little noisy.
Yeah, whatever. Hey, keep it down. You know? Yeah.
Yes. And when we bring people back to, do tours and stuff, it's loud. And they're like, oh, this is just way too loud. And we're like, well, stranger danger, right? Like, you're a new person.
You're the problem.
Yeah. We're taking you back into their thing. And they're like, woo, let's go, you know, but really it's not always like that. Like, it's surprisingly quiet often. Like, after they've had their food and they've been out and they're like, okay, now it's nap time. Like,
it's kind of like humans.
Yeah.
But we think we're exempt from that, you know? So I'm just going to say this, and I'm not saying you're saying this.
Yes.
I'm saying this as a customer.
Yeah.
Complaining about your dog being tired at the end of the day or having sore paws or whatever it is, that's just silly. And if you're listening to this, you can call me and you can complain to me, but I love it when I just want him to get in the car. If he's got a little break in his paw, we'll put some ointment on it. Just take it easy on the business owner that is caring for your dog. Yeah. And so I want to say that.
Yes,
that's from me.
Thank you.
You know,
because it is, a lot of people have never had a dog before. This is their first dog, and they're really upset when their dog has sore feet, or if their dog has lost some weight, or they just don't understand. So, or if their dog has kennel cough and they're very upset, and it just takes a human connection to them. And it's usually me or Danielle calling saying, okay, so you just got back from the vet and you got $100 charge because your dog has a cough. So next time, make sure you call us first, because we're going to save you that $100, because we're going to explain to you what kennel cough is. And we understand you thought your dog was choking or whatever, but here's the deal. And it's just saying, like, it's okay. It's just a cold. They're not going to have, respiratory distress, or it's not going to go into anything else. They're going to cough for 3 days. You're going to give them this cough medicine. You're going to, here's what to expect. And they're like, oh,
it's like, you know what you're doing. Yeah.
Okay. That's great. So usually it's just a phone call from
a personal connection
to that person who is sincerely worried. And, like, he hurt his paw. Why did that happen? Why weren't you guys watching that? Like, we were watching that. He was a crazy nut,
Yeah. We saw it happen.
Yeah. Like it's all good, but we try really hard to make those personal connections, because these are long-term. We get your dog as a puppy. We grow that dog up. We try to make that dog a social butterfly who loves kids, dogs, all our people. I just want to talk quick about the employee thing. So we have about 50 employees between the two kennels. So it's quite a process. And I've had people say to me before, like, you sure seem like you go through a lot of people. And that is true at times. Sometimes we have people, this is going to be their career path. They want to work at a dog kennel. They want to be in daycare, and we move them up through, like, when we get people in, and I trained all summer. I worked all summer long, every weekend. I'd have a couple days off during the week, but I was training people. So here's how we clean. Here's how we care for the dogs. Here's what we say to our customers, like, just the whole bit. Right. And
it takes a lot.
It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of singing Dolly Parton in the back, and the just at the top of my lungs, and the dogs are like, she's crazy, and we're like, yeah,
we like her. She's cool. Yeah, she's crazy, but
we're having
cool.
a good time, And so, but our goal with our employees, because we have high school girls, high school kids, a lot of high school kids, like after school, we have a few that come in and blah, blah, blah. College kids, kids that it's their career path. If we can get you to work on time, not high, love the dogs, you get a paycheck. Like, if we can train these kids to be good workers, which I feel like is part of the coaching of my own kids. And I'm still, I'm 58 years old, but I'm still in that coaching stage, because my youngest just left the house. So I've had kids in the house for 35 years. So now I have that connection with these young people that are coming into my business, who I get to train and love. And everybody has problems. All these kids, they're coming from broken homes, sad situations, not all of them, but a lot of them. And that's my passion. Like, I love the dogs, and I didn't realize how much I love dogs until I got in this business, because I just was a people lover. And so now I get to influence the whole next generation of hard workers, showing up on time, being respectful, how to call out, all those important things that are going to make them great people in the future. But we didn't realize how big that was going to be in our business. And we love our people. And for you to get fired at our business is hard.
Yeah.
Like, we want to bring you along,
develop
you as a person, and love you as a person, and care for you. And, hey, how are you feeling today? How are you? Do you need another day off? Like, we're a little business, and COVID was brutal because we were trying not to pass the bug to each other. And like, oh, my boyfriend's girlfriend's aunt had it and I was there for an hour and I can't come to work today. And we're like,
marks, yeah.
Okay, like we don't have enough people. I worked, when we came out of COVID, we didn't have enough workers. I worked 40 days with not one day off. And they were 14-hour days. When you work at the kennel, you do minimum a mile an hour on cement. Like I change my shoes like 3 times a day because my feet are so tired. And there were days I would get in the house and sit down and I couldn't get up for 2 hours. Like my feet cannot hold me yet. Like, okay, in a minute, I'm gonna get up. Call for pizza, guys, because I'm not cooking tonight.
Yeah, not happening.
No, it's not happening. It has been, besides raising 7 kids, the hardest, best years. Like, love my little business, love the employees over the years, keep in contact with them on Facebook and, all those things. They go on to be vets and moms and dads. We've had some really good guys come through too, but it's mostly, it's sort of a mothering kind of situation but you walk through with the girls and they're like, that little dog, likes scratch behind the ears, and that big dog loves to walk between your legs. And they know them, they love them, they care about them. And I think that's the difference. I think that's the difference in the care and just having them out as much as they can, not having them isolated. And the cleanliness of the facility is just paramount to running a good business. And I wasn't a business person. I was a mom, and I graduated high school. I got married at 19. I've been married for 38, 39 years, something like that. And we grew up together. We had an excavating company, but I wasn't the business person. And so I would say to my girls, like, I'm just a mom. So I'm learning to.
Being a mom's a big deal.
Being a mom is a big deal. Yeah. But being a business person is a big deal too. And it was a lot of similarities, but a lot of very much similarities, I would say. But I'd never fired someone, and I'd never hired someone. And you kind of have to find your way. Like, you can read about it. And finally, I came to the conclusion in firing people, and this is from Bob, the guy who owned Faith Life. Yep. He wrote a book called Fire Someone Today. And he says, release them to do what they're good at. Like, if they're not good at being a kennel attendant or a daycare attendant or a front desk person, and you see it, just release them. And I never argue with that person. Like, I'm just like, it's not working out. Yeah. It's just not working out.
And it might be also a piece to it is, and just to clarify from my perspective, outside looking in, there are some industries where there are like, let's say there's a core amount of spots in your business where there's space for growth.
Yes.
And then there's a lot of positions there that are necessary, really important, but also maybe a stepping stone for someone to go somewhere else. And so someone else looking in goes, oh yeah, you have all this turnover. And you're like, well, but this position is a stepping stone. And this is the role that I'm trying to be in this person's life. And if they go on to something else for whatever reason, that's okay. This is what this is supposed to be.
They're just a better person.
Yes.
We're making them better people, better employees. And they graduate high school and go to college. We lose that person. They graduate college and move away to their next real job. Right. We lose that person. And it's a young people's business.
Notice that. Yeah.
It's so many miles in a day. It's so much bending and wet and, wet dog smell and all that stuff. I'm never going to be a bather, by the way. That is a tough job, and a groomer. Like, I don't like that wet, hairy
poofy,
feeling.
Hair flying everywhere.
I have walked past a groom room and it is literally like a snow is happening inside there. Like, I love a good smelling dog, but don't underestimate how hard those groomers work and how much, like, they have to wear a mask just to keep the hair out of their mouth and nose so they can breathe in some of those situations. Besides it, not all dogs like their feet touched or want their anal glands expressed or whatever, you know.
You had to call out Walt. That dude and his anal glands, disgusting. Yeah. Hey, I've got just to shift off the anal gland subject really quickly. No, I have a philosophical question for you.
Yes.
Okay, you're extroverted, you love people, and you also love dogs. Do you think, being in the business of dogs, do you like dogs better than people sometimes, or more than often?
You know, they're less back talk.
Dogs?
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
They love you unconditionally. My kids and my employees give me a lot of crap. They tease me so bad, and I love it. And they probably do that because I take it well and pitch it back pretty good. The dogs never do that to me, though. They just love me, and I just love them. So it's like, it's a great little business. Been very fun, very fulfilling.
What would you say for an entrepreneur or someone that is deciding what they want to do? Maybe they haven't finished high school yet. Maybe one of these young people that comes into your business that has a good idea or doesn't have an MBA, or I mean, I'm just describing us in this space here. What's some of your advice that you would pass along to somebody? Well, I'm not even talking about age. I'm just talking about maybe they're 40 and they said, hey, I want to completely shift and I want to do something different with my life. Or maybe they're 15 and they figured it out quicker than we did, or whatever it is. Like,
or they think they know what they want to do. I think, when we hire people, they come in and they're like, I just want to play with dogs. And we're like, 80% of what you're going to do is cleaning, just picking up poop in the fields, cleaning up, kennels, cleaning water buckets twice a day. Those have to all be washed. Like, it's a lot of work. And if you don't want to work that hard and you don't want to be on your feet that long, like, we have people who come in and they're just sitting on the bed with the dog, and we're like, hey, but they got to be fed now. And they got to be out. Has that dog been out? Like, we love it that you're loving on that dog, but we also have a schedule to keep and to get everybody out, to make everybody comfortable, and to get you home in time for dinner. Like, you gotta keep moving.
Have a clip to it. You have to have a clip, and you have to have a checklist. I'm talking to Tiffany here because she is the logistics queen here.
Me and
Coop just follow what she says to do. And Chris and Tim, they tell us what to do. We follow.
And I am good at doing the work. I'm not always good at writing down how we do it. So Sydney has been great at the logistics of things, and that will be passing it on right to the next generation. And so we have to start thinking about that, because I don't really want to put on 14 miles a day anymore. Like, I get tired.
Maybe on a beach in Hawaii or something.
We've watched all the travel trailers leaving on the Hannigan. Everybody's going on vacation. I'm like,
have fun on your vacation.
Wish I could go.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I'm at the front desk. Like, where are you going? Oh, we're going to Australia for 2 weeks. Oh, we're going to Hawaii. We hear the most fabulous vacation stories, and they come home and I want to know all about it. Like, but I love my customers too. Like, how was your daughter's wedding this weekend? How is your son doing, who's in the hospital in San Francisco? How is your, I'm sorry to hear about your dad. Like, I love my people because I see them all the time. And when I was
community,
it's my group. They text me, they call me. I was the person, but we grew so much. You can't be the only person. And I had to learn to work on my business and not in my business. And that was a really hard transition, because that is letting go. They're not going to write the email like I would do it. And they're not going to handle the situation exactly how I would do it, but they're doing a good job. And And in some things, they're doing a way better job. And that's a huge thing, is to hire people better than yourself. Like, I don't do any accounting. I'm going to let the accountant do that because I'm not a numbers person. That's not my forte. And I'm not going to do the grooming because I'm not going to be good at that. And I'm not even good in daycare. Like, I get nervous in daycare in a whole group of dogs. I'm like, did he just growl? Like, like I didn't grow up in an era where we had daycare. Our dog fought with our neighbor's dog, and we were all on 5 acres, and it was
There wasn't any money involved, was there? There wasn't that type of dog fight?
No, none of that.
Okay.
But it like, I think it scarred me. Our neighbor dog and our dog got in a fight on the corner of the property, and my neighbor man yells, "Get a bucket of water!" And I get a bucket of water and threw it and hit him and didn't even touch the dog.
Nice.
And he's never let me forget that. But I do great in the kennel because I have a schedule, I have a checklist, I can do that too. And now I have front desk people who, they run those phone systems. The phone systems are different. The booking system is I used to do all that. And then
it's easier now. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You do it all online. Yeah. It's a whole different, people don't want to really talk to people much. They're like, I don't need to talk to you for 30 minutes to get my dog set up for daycare. I can just put it all in.
Yeah.
Yep. We can check put
it in the cloud.
Yeah. It's all, and it got a little too much for me. And I didn't need to put in that many hours anymore. I didn't really want to. So I have really worked. And then we bought a second location. So then we were starting there. So I love a good challenge, and I have to have my creative juices flowing. And that this has been a great outlet for the last 12 years to, start one and then start another. We have friends back east who own 5 of them, and they build them for $1 million a piece, and they have swimming pools and elevators and
what?
Oh yeah. Unbelievable, beautiful facilities. But the permitting, the construction costs, it's huge. They're in like Pennsylvania, and
probably a little bit different than good old Whatcom County.
Yeah. We toured one that had 400 dogs.
Whoa.
Yeah. They board 400 dogs.
A lot of personalities
on a holiday. And they've been there for years doing they've had their kennel for, I don't know, probably 40 years or something. He's an old man, and his parents had started it. So we'll see what the future holds. But, COVID was a challenge. We thought we were, the pet industry was invincible, like just climbing. Everybody had dogs. And then COVID happened, and all we got was cancellations for weeks.
Not us.
Yeah. Because
we
were an essential service. So that worked out good for us. But we, because everybody who had to go to work had to have a place to bring their dogs yet. And because it's, your dog is barking in the condo while you're at work, and your neighbors are calling animal control. Like, you got to think of those things, when you buy a dog, you have to think of those things too. But COVID just threw such a wrench in everything, and scared the crap out of us, because we were like, oh my gosh, now
it's the end.
Yeah. Like, what is going to happen here? And we came back strong, but then we had employee shortage. Yeah. So, and now minimum wage keeps going up, and our people are minimum wage or above, we try to keep them above that, but that keeps, so then you have to raise your prices, and it just, every time we have to raise prices, we're just beat ourselves up so bad, put it off as long as possible. But insurance went up, L&I went up, everything. It's a hard business. A lot that
goes into running a business, and
so much
people don't see. I will say with the cost, the cost going up, I think it was like $10.
I thought it was $5, but
$5. Okay, I quoted it wrong.
Exactly. Yeah.
We were like, cool, sounds good, easy. And I want to give a pretty shameless plug, because like I said, we've been taking Walt there for a long time. We did our research before, and it was lots of recommendations, and we said, cool, sounds good. And you guys have always taken really good care of Walt and us, and been super informative. I'm just a really big fan of your business, and been really fascinated of like, who's behind this. Tiffany happened to know you. This all came together.
Yeah.
But for those of you that are out there that are thinking about getting a dog, I really want you to listen to this episode and go to the section where you're talking about the kind of the warning, like, hey, these are living creatures. They're not, you can't just put a kid in a crate, but you know, there is more than just like, hey, we got a dog.
Yeah.
He's our friend now, or she's our friend now. It's a big commitment. Yep. So I would the shameless plug is you need to go check out Rover. If you have a dog and are like, oh, my work schedule went, like, just it's simplified our life. Yeah. It's a quick pop out to Linden, like just south of Linden for us, because you guys are just south of Linden.
We're 8 minutes from Barkley Village.
Boom.
And Puget is by the airport.
Right.
3710 Williamson Way. So we're right there, which is super convenient. We only do daycare there. But the cool thing is we do daycare by the hour. So somebody just needs to go get groceries, like drop them off for an hour, let us wear them out. Or you can't leave them in the car in the summertime, and you can't leave them in your house or your apartment because they're a puppy. Just drop them off for 2 hours. Yep. Like, let us take care of them. We try to be everything dog. Like we try to think of all the situations, like how can we help our people more? And that's kind of our whole goal has been like, we want to do it better for the dogs, but also for the people, because you're not going to bring your dog there unless you have a need. And you don't have any family in town that can take your dog every day and
even if you do, it is like you talked about, it can be burdensome to just say, hey, we're going out of town. Can you watch our dog? Huge shout out to you guys for, it's created it's made him happier. It's given us more like peace of mind when we're at work, that he's not just sitting at home. I don't have to break my day. So again, I just want to be really shameless about this for people that are thinking about getting a dog. Do your research on what it takes to raise a dog.
Yeah.
And do a good job at it.
Yeah.
And then also just make your life easier. And it's not incredibly expensive. Well, owning a dog is more than you think it will cost anyways. And so remember that too. But then just like, they need to just go to Rover. So anybody that asks me, they're like, where's your dog? And I'm like, in a field somewhere, running around, having a good time,
out on
eating.
The farm.
So I really appreciate you sharing your story with us here. And I love what you do. And it's so good to finally, I've seen you and we've talked in the office, but we never connected the dots, and just really appreciate what you do. And thank you for sharing your story with us and our listeners. And
having me. It's good for people to get the inside scoop.
Yeah.
It makes them feel more confident about what an actual modern dog facility is like for daycare, and why daycare, and
or what standards they should be holding everybody too. So appreciate that a lot.
We're doing our best, and that's we're not perfect, but we're definitely trying hard.
And that should matter a lot. And so thank you for coming on. This is season 5, episode 5. Charmae, Rover, stay over. Puget Hound, thank you for coming in.
Thanks, Leo.
Cool.